This is Heather with Retro Fabulous blog, and today we're going to be talking about a couple of options that you have when you're adding a vine or a basket handle to your project. Your choices basically include needle turn, back basting, freezer paper method, and fusing. Then you also have reverse applique, and we'll go into some of those other types later on. Today we're going to be talking about simplified needle turn and back basting. For this particular basket handle, you have a deep curve. So to make this a little bit easier, I drew my pattern on the back of the fabric, and then I hand stitched with a running stitch. You'll want to take your pins out as you go, but I just left that in for demonstration. Using bias binding. Now I make mine continuous at home, so if you use the package you're going to have a little bit more trouble with it. What you'll want to do is open it up and then press it in half instead of all these individual edges. You don't want to bother with that. We're going to use our raw edge, and I've trimmed mine for this demonstration. I will go ahead and use the running stitch behind it, so you're only dealing with one edge to applique. Okay, the joy of binding, of bias binding in particular, is that it has some stretch to it. And that's what we're going to do. And then you'll want to press this flat. Alright, now that that's pressed and pinned, we're going to start our applique. Now this is where needle turn would normally come in, but if you use this method, you only have one side to do, and it's no turning involved because you have a clear fold. Okay. Once I have my knot in, which I do behind my bias, in between that and my background fabric, I'll go behind, take a couple of small stitches, and I am taking larger stitches than I normally would so that you can see them. And you want to come right to your corner, just catching a few threads. I pinch as I go, and that helps to keep your thread from tangling. Now you can't do multiple stitches. Some people do that. I like to do one at a time. It works for me. Do what works for you. Okay. And this would be the sweeping motion that you use in needle turn, which is why it's good to know several different types of applique. You'll still use it. Alright, so you'll go ahead and finish this, trim your edges, and then you're ready to piece this as you normally would. Now, the thread that I'm using today is a hand quilting thread. It's considerably thicker than what I usually use. Normally I use YLI silk thread. When you first start, you'll probably want to match your fabric, but as you progress, you can switch to a neutral or white, depending on what your fabric choices are. I'd probably go with off-white or cream for this, and it still won't show. It's fantastic. The next method we're going to talk about is back basting, and I found this on Sentimental Stitches site. There's a tutorial over there if you'd like to catch that. Basically, the idea behind back basting is that you use your line of sewing with a thicker needle and thread, a contrasting color, so that you can see it as you go to applique. So you just do a simple running stitch, but you don't make a knot in your sewing. You're going to pull it through and leave your threads hanging, and we'll see why in just a moment. Nice tail on that one. Okay. Now we'll see what this one looks like already done. You'll see a lot of different pins in here. That's just to keep things straight while I'm adding in my running stitch. And you can see my tails here. You do want to separate or cut those ends, and you'll see why as I go to pull them out. Now that my stitching is in, I can remove my pins and cut my fabric. Okay, for concave areas or for circles, you want to be sure that you're clipping your edge so that that folds under smoothly for you. Alright, so we drew our lines on the back side of the fabric, and then you can still check your progress. You'll be able to see where your lines are supposed to be just from the holes you made using an embroidery needle, but just in case you're unsure, you can flip it over and check your progress. Okay. So as you go, you're going to remove your stitches, just a couple at a time. You don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. And you'll pinch down and start your line of sewing. This is where that contrasting thread's really going to come in handy for you so that you can always tell where that basting is. Use your thumb to hold it in place, and if your thread gets a little too long and it's in your way, just clip it and move on. Okay, so for your stitches, you'll want to just go through the background fabric, and then just grab the very edge of your fold and pull through. And if you keep your thumb in place, you shouldn't have too many tangles to deal with. One of the best things I love about back basting is that it's perfect for on-the-go sewing, especially if you have little munchkins around and you don't want to deal with any pins. You can prep this the night before or the week before, it doesn't matter. Pop it into your to-go bag, and you can take care of your sewing when you're watching your kids or playing at the park or whatever, relaxing with a friend. It's great for on the go. Next we'll be talking about freezer paper method, which happens to be my personal favorite. Regardless of the method that you choose, enjoy applique. It is not as hard as someone told you it is. Enjoy.